Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. June the 12th has emerged as one of the most significant dates in Nigeria's political history. Today marks the 22nd anniversary of the controversial annulment of what's believed to be the freest and fairest election ever conducted in Nigeria. On this day in 1993, many Nigerians believed they were on the threshold of witnessing a political transition from military to democratic governance with the conclusion of the presidential election. Results released showed business mogul and philanthropist Chief Moshood Abiola, who ran on the platform of the Social Democratic Party, clearly in the lead and on the verge of emerging victorious. But the final result would not see the light of day as the military ruler, General Ibrahim Babangida, made the shocking announcement that the election had been annulled. Nigerians reacted with street protests, nationwide strikes and civil disobedience. The resultant crisis eventually forced Babangida out of office, paving way for General Sani Abacha to take over power on November the 17th from an interim government led by Ernest Shonekan. General Abacha later had Chief Abiola jailed for claiming his mandate. Chief MKO Abiola died in detention on July the 8th, 1998. However, the anniversary of the presidential election is honored every year in parts of the country, particularly in the southwest, Chief Abiola's home region. There have been calls from some quarters to have the day immortalized as Democracy Day in Nigeria. Well, let's now take a moment to look back into history at some of the events of the past 22 years when Nigerians went to the polls in what's perceived as the freest and fairest election in our history. The annulment of the June 12, 1993 election sparked widespread protests and unrest in the country. It was indeed a period in which civil rights activists said the fight for democracy was tough. In this report, our political correspondent Seun Okimbaloye highlights some of these events, but we'd like to warn our viewers that the video you're about to see contains flash photography.
The military has overstayed their welcome. A decade of military junta and promises of a return to civil rule has continuously failed. The June 12, 1993 election was sort of a rekindled hope for most Nigerians, and just as the campaign slogan of the Social Democratic Party SDP, the hopes of Nigerians were high. The 1993 polls labeled as perhaps one of Nigeria's freest and fairest elections. Sadly, the leader of the then military government, General Ibrahim Babangida, dropped the bombshell.
It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful. However, there was, in fact, a huge array of electoral practices virtually in all the states of the Federation before the actual voting began.
That did not go down well with Chief MKO Abiola, the man said to have won the elections.
This country is tired of their inconsistency. Yes. The people of Nigeria have spoken. Yes. Unfortunately, apparently, what the people said was not what they wanted to hear. It was tough luck for them. It is the people's voice that will be heard and will be heard and will be heard again. Yes. The decision of the federal military government to cancel the election of June 12 is invidious, unpatriotic, and capable of causing undue and unnecessary confusion in the country, and therefore repugnant to every right-thinking Nigerian.
The events a year after the election show that a lot of things didn't go down well with Nigerians too. Many defied the weather, protests to force the hands of the military government, leading to sorrow, tears and deaths. 22 years after the painful annulment of the June 12, 1993 elections, a close look at some of the key elements of the MKO Abiola-led campaign manifesto shows nothing has perhaps changed in our story as a nation.
That is going to stop.
Abiola promised to wipe out poverty, revamp the economy, eradicate unemployment, end budget deficit, stabilize the value of the naira, and engage more women in the federal cabinet. Those are still issues begging for honest attention more than 2 decades after. Sheung Wakimbaloye reporting for Channels Television News.
Well, to discuss the June 12th anniversary and its implications in the country's political space, I'm now being joined on the News at 10 by legal practitioner Mr. Festus Kayamo. He joins me via Skype. Thanks so much for joining me on the News at 10 tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Do you think the players in our political space still reckon with June 12 and the sacrifice that Chief Abiola made 22 years on?
Well, I don't think the majority of them still reckon with June 12. And it is sad that they don't reckon with June 12. If you see that today, only a handful of states declared today as a public holiday to mark June 12. Whereas the entire democratic experience we are enjoying today is as a result of the experience of June 12. Because June 12 evokes a lot of memories. Firstly, it evokes the memory of the martyrdom of Chief MKO Abiola, who laid down his life to establish a democratic culture. Secondly, it also evokes the memory of the fight against military rule, because it was June 12 that exposed the military as nothing but a group of unscrupulous carpetbaggers who were only taking advantage of unsettled political situations in Nigeria to intervene, not that they meant any good for Nigeria also. And so June 12 episode showed that the military just did not want to leave power, because people think that it was actually the actual annulment of the election that was the problem. The problem was that it was just the tipping point. The problem started 8 years before that time, when Babangida started a journey to nowhere. He kept tinkering with the transition program, promising a return to military rule without end. And on June 12, when people were tired and they voted, and he annulled the election again, people said, look, enough was enough. The military had to go. And so people defied, the Nigerian people defied military high-handedness at that time. So it was the June 12 experience that demystified the military. And I can tell you that most of the crises we have faced in the last 16 years, they were more than the crises that brought down the First and the Second Republics.
Okay, but if I
did not intervene at this time, because Nigerians on June 12 rejected military rule once and for all. So that is what we are enjoying today, and it's unfortunate that majority of our politicians are not recognizing this.
Well, indeed, but as you've said, and many others have also said, our democracy thrives on the selfless sacrifice that he made to ensure that the people's mandate was executed. But with what we see today, did the people actually win in the end?
Well, it is still a mixed bag, because firstly, we have established democracy, and there's no return to military rule. That is for sure, because of the experience of June 12. The worst democratic government is better than even the best military government. Now, what we have not experienced are the real dividends of democracy. So it's a mixed bag. Yes, we have established democracy, but have we, started enjoying the dividends of democracy, the fruits of democracy? We have not, achieved that. That is the problem, the second part of it, that we all have to struggle to enjoy.
Many did say that, in 1993, we saw a really robust campaign with the mobilization of the electorate. We saw that again somewhat in 2015, this year. What will it take to push beyond the promises at the polls to actual good governance? Because there's always so much hope, and then somehow it doesn't just turn out the way the people expected.
It's very simple. I think we need to tinker with our electoral system. At the core of our problems has been our electoral system. But there's been a lot of improvements, especially with the last election. We saw a lot of improvement. Why do I say so? Because we need a government, or we need various governments that are responsive to the demands and the yearnings of the people. And the only way they can do that is for the government of the day to be the true reflection of the wishes of the people, so that the government can have corresponding loyalty to the people, and not to some godfathers who handpick people and put them in positions irrespective of the wishes of the people. But what we saw on March 29, 2015 is something very close to what we experienced on June 12. Because this time, for the first time in 16 years, the Nigerian people came out and spoke, and their voices were heard loud and clear. This is the first time, remember, since 1960, that a ruling government at the federal level was removed by the voices of the people, by the votes of the people. So what we need is a truly, functional electoral system that can make a government responsive and responsible, to the people instead of some, godfathers.
All right, legal practitioner, Mr. Festus Keyamo, thank you so much for joining me on the News at 10 tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, still ahead on the News at 10, Group says electronic fraud is on the rise. So that's on business. Do join us again.